Hello and a warm welcome to the Second Look show here on Back of the Net. A chance to go over Saturday's game with a little bit more detail than Match of the Day did. What was it, about 3 minutes on Villa, about 10 seconds on Bournemouth. We love being back in the Premier League, but in hindsight, we do. What a start to the season it was, with a maybe unexpected 2-0 win over Aston Villa. So, to go over the details, it's myself, Sam Davis.
Me, Tom Jordan.
And I'm Tiggs.
And also, it's not just us today, because we've also got a certain Mr. Jeff Hayward here remotely as well. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
Really good, thank you, Sam.
Loved seeing you on the vlog, sat next to Tiggs, Jeff. You know what? Absolute pros in the South Stand there.
Yeah, you didn't get the bit where the steward told us to switch the camera off, did you, Sam?
No, we didn't get that. But that's okay. That's okay. Gentlemen, Tom, it is good to be back, I think.
Never in doubt, mate. Never in doubt. No, it was lovely. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was first and foremost, it was just nice to go back. You know what I mean, and see a league game and be back in the Premier League. And it was a good atmosphere in there. I think everyone was excited. But let's not lie to ourselves. We all would have taken a point. I think I couldn't find anyone that wouldn't. And obviously we'll get into the game. But yeah, we were up for it. We were up for it, mate. And doubt this, say Premier League want to do it, doubt us all you want. I mean, even I think, why do I keep doubting this team? Because they keep proving me wrong. So, yeah, it was delighting, mate. But it was just, it was great to be back and see some familiar faces and get back in the ground.
And Tiggs, there's been maybe 2 seasons in our history where there's been the expectation for something to actually happen, and 50% of those seasons were successful. Most times in our history, we've been up against it.
True.
And this is another one of those seasons. So who say we can't upset the odds like we've done before, eh?
Hey, why not? I think that, that's what we're known for, really. I think we kind of drifted a little bit away from that adage. But no, I definitely think we can upset the odds, upset the apple cart, the cherry cart, whatever you want to call it. And look, where are we in the league right now? Second.
6-pointer on Saturday, mate. 6-pointer for Europe.
And Jeff, I mean, there were a number of people at the bar before the game on Saturday that were fairly pessimistic. You can understand why, though, right?
Yeah, I think we hadn't obviously got the squad fully in place, and we still haven't, really. I think we're still probably short of 1 or 2, and it was just figuring out, okay, how is it going to work? What team is he going to pick? Are we going to be completely defensive? And then we saw the team sheet.
Yeah, we did see the team sheet, Tom. And look, when I saw it come through, look, I think if you watch the vlog, you'll know that I wasn't at the game, but I was getting very twitchy from 2 o'clock onwards. I was actually at a wedding, so I was looking at the team sheet. And obviously they do it in that list now, so you've got no idea of the formation. And I was expecting some names on there that weren't on there.
Yeah.
Tell me your thoughts when you saw that at 2 o'clock. Were you baffled or?
A little bit. I think the notable one was Ben Pearson in for Lewis Cook, and that's nothing against Ben Pearson. I was thinking it after. I was going, has he ever had a bad game for us? Not really. He's quite reliable, but listen, he got in the last friendly, he got ditched off to the development squad, and Lewis Cook's played, all the minutes. So was really surprised. Obviously, in hindsight, it looks like a great decision, but that was a brave call from Scott, because if that doesn't go right, people say, "What are you doing?" But yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I was interested to see if he went with James Hill or moved Lerma back. And looking at it now, I think because he moved Lerma back, was that why he brought Pearson in, just to have that destroyer still in there with losing Lerma from that position? And also Tavernier. Did not expect Tavernier to start straight away. Thought you'd probably see a Christie in there, but he went for Tavernier once again. That worked well. And also Kiefer Moore. We'll go into kind of how they all, set out on the pitch. But we looked at it and went, blooming, next 2 strikers up there. And hindsight's brilliant and it all worked out well. But there were definitely some surprises. I don't think it was anyone was like absolutely gutted, because we didn't bring in anyone, everyone was excited about Tavernier. Ben Pearson is quite reliable and we all love Kiefer Moore. So it wasn't anyone that was really kind of annoyed. It was more a bit of a surprise, really, particularly Lewis Cook not playing.
Yeah, Tavernier, that was one of the players that I really wasn't expecting to start at all. And I wasn't really sure positioning. Now, people who are watching this may notice between me and Tom is a tactics board, which we're going to go over later on. It's like our own dictionary corner. We won't go yet, but we will go later on. And just explain, because I was seeing tweets saying 3-5-2.
Yeah.
But to me, it almost seemed like 3-4-2-1.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really understand what was going on, but we didn't even really get time to work out how the formation was going because we scored inside 2
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which changes the plan straight away, probably to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, we were set up to fight, really. I mean, that's the thing. But give us options on the counter. And that's exactly how it worked, really. So, yeah, I think brilliant. And great to see so many people make their debuts, Premier League debuts as well. Like,
it was 5, I think, wasn't it?
It's crazy, isn't it?
One of them I got on the score sheet later on in the game, didn't they? So, yeah, really good. But as you say, the early goal settled everything down, and it probably would have been interesting if we hadn't scored that early goal, how the shape would have been, because like you said, Tiggs, that does change things because you've got something to hang on to then. So it probably makes you be a little bit more defensively wise and not so focused on the right. How can we hurt them? Because we've got the early goal, we've got the win. We need to hang on to it, and so yeah, probably change things a little bit. But yeah, who knew moving Lerma to the back would mean he'd be more of a goal threat? Eh?
Well, that's what I thought. And Jeff, explain your emotions. In fact, explain the goal for people who may not have seen it.
We've already talked about one player, Tavernier. None of us knew what to expect from him. I don't know if even Scott Parker knew what to expect from him, but he sort of threw him in as a kind of floating midfield player, and a bit like the Billing role, where he seemed to have license to be anywhere and everywhere. Maybe that was just the amount that he ran, because he was unbelievable. I thought, not only that, he can cross the ball, and the corner that he takes is... When have we last cleared the first man with a corner? It's like first one, and it was on the money, right onto Lloyd Kelly's head. The ball sort of bobbled around a bit from there, and then fell to Jeff 8 yards out, and he lashed it in with his left foot. It was just the sort of start we needed. And Tavernier, what a player! I think his set piece delivery is going to make him a real threat. And also, what I'd also call out that's different is, when was the last time that we looked like a physical threat in the air to teams? I mean, all 90 minutes, we looked like we could score from set plays against them, which is fantastic, having so many good, big aerial players in the team with good set-piece delivery.
That's one thing that came across on some of the post-match interviews as well. A number of their players, when they spoke to the media, were talking about this big Bournemouth side with a physical presence. And it's, what are you talking about the Cherries here? But, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more, going into the game and how it kind of unfolded, but I mean their plan looked to be to put crosses in, and we dealt with them so well. Our 3 centre halves, plus you got Kiefer on the pitch, plus you got Philip Billing on the pitch. I mean, it was sort of played into our hands, really, a lot of it. But yeah, Jeff and I, we were really lucky where we were sacked, so we got really good view of that goal, and it surprised us both. We looked at each other a little bit shocked, didn't we, Jeff?
Yeah.
At the time. It was probably more shocking than your vegan sausage roll that you very much enjoyed.
But it was there were chips with that, you know that.
There were chips with that. It was it was good. It was really, really good. And I mean, it just, from that point on, it just felt so much more comfortable. Like the anxiety just kind of dropped, didn't it?
Yeah, it was massive for us.
Nearly made it 2 about 3-4 minutes later with Jay-Z getting in on the act. It was a run that he made very similar to what led to the free kick against Nottingham Forest. Only this time he laid it off to Solanke, who managed to get onto his left foot. Powerful strike at goal, and that was a real chance for us as well. And at that stage, you're probably thinking, how many can we get in?
maybe not so much that, but I think it showed that we still caused them a threat on the other side, even though we were ahead. And they still had something to worry about, so they couldn't open up too much because, we were a threat the other way. And yeah, Jay-Z does that. I think you see a lot of fullbacks/wingbacks that can bomb on and have that energy, but he can come inside as well as outside. And he likes coming inside of the pitch, doesn't he? Like you say, he done that for the free kick we got that got us promoted. And yeah, good little drive. Dom shifted it well, didn't he? But unfortunately straight at Martinez. But yeah, we were causing them problems early on, mate. And as Jeff said as well, and Tiggs, we were bigger and looking good from set pieces, which is always a good thing to have in your armoury. And they could have done with a big lump like Tyrone Mings at the back, couldn't they?
What really struck me, Tiggs, was our shape off the ball. And we were really well disciplined. And it wasn't a game that flowed. It was quite scrappy at times, but that's because we made it scrappy by... we were hassling them at times. I noticed that players like Jefferson Lerma and Adam Smith were like breaking the lines when they had the ball to rush forward to close them down, and then they retreated back into their own position, and all over the pitch we were hassling them, we were harrying them. Philip Billing every so often, even though I don't think he had the greatest game out of the 11 on Saturday, he just put his legs in every now and then. Pearson was a menace as well. Didn't really give them that much of a chance, did we?
We did not give them a sniff. I'm sure Jeff will say in a minute a little bit more about Pearson, who definitely stood out to him throughout the game. I know because he was almost applauding at one point, Jeff, I think you were. But there's a really good video that came out this week. I don't know if you lads saw it on social media from the club. And it's got a little training session, a little running session. And the boys had to run in teams.
Okay.
And if anyone left your team behind, then you didn't do well.
Wow,
you had to keep that. And there's a brilliant bit at the end of it. And, you must check it out if you haven't already, where, Parker turns around and he says, "We want heart and we want balls."
Yeah.
And that's what this team is about. And it's one of those amazing moments from Parker where you just kind of, you forget all the other stuff, the kind of the downers on him and the negativity, and you go, wow, this guy really knows how to motivate a group of players. I'm really starting to believe in him as that. And I think that performance on the weekend is motivate. They've been motivated to just perform and just work.
Yeah, forget about the footballing side of it as well. I thought we looked fit. And there's been a lot of comparisons in terms of people saying how different he is to Eddie. But that's one thing that's similar. We've got a really fit team, which is what Eddie got in as well. They looked, as you were mentioning there, the kind of the high intensity, and we looked fit in Villa from minute one, right? Even on 90, we looked fitter than Villa. And as you say, that's probably them sort of drills they're doing is certainly working. And as a group, the energy levels were far superior to Villa.
And Ben Pearson, Jeff, really, really caught your eye, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that midfield combo of Pearson and Billing, it was kind of like little and large. There's one bloke who's kind of a menace, harrying them all the time, which was Pearson, and then what Billing offered was just sort of his long legs getting in the way, being awkward. So many times they underestimated just how wide you need to pass the ball from Phil Bill to get it past him, and he intercepted. Pearson was just irritating as hell, which is what we love about him. And he was breaking up the play. There was one challenge he made on McGinn, which was just brilliant to watch. And he was sliding. He was playing like championship midfield against them, and they did not like it. I think I said a bit of a Dad's Army phrase, didn't I, Tiggs? They don't like it up them, and that's what it felt like in that first half.
It felt like, to me, was exactly what you said. Like Pearson, there was a stage last season where I was kind of wondering, will he play much for us again? But he's a player, like you alluded to on one of our previous shows. He shows his colours a bit better when he's off the ball and with his hard work. And look, let's face it, the possession stats showed that we had very little of the ball. Was it between, I don't know, it was around 34% or something like that. And he was superb. And what epitomised it was a number of like individual moments during the game, not least that challenge. I mean, I know that comes later on in the game, but Aston Villa threatening to sort of burst forward midway through the first half, I think it was, and then he runs back and grabs the ball off him. It's like slide tackle. That's amazing. And those are little moments, aren't they, that sometimes you need.
See, that's the Ben Pearson that Preston were always talking about. That was the Ben Pearson that we signed, that we've never really seen him be that consistently because of injuries and things. But that's what I remember seeing a thing. I think it was it might have been the second look or something like that. And they talked about if you've got a situation where your goalkeeper's one-on-one, you can have one player come in and make a tackle, and all of them went to Ben Pearson. It made such an impression.
It's interesting because Preston, no disrespect to Preston, but they finished kind of bottom half of the Championship ever since Pearson's been there, really. And so it makes sense why they see what we're going to start seeing, in my opinion, from Ben Pearson. The problem when he's coming for us is we were the top end of the Championship where you have all the ball. And that's not Ben Pearson. We have all the ball and they're going to break us down. This season, it's going to be the complete opposite. And in a weird way, he might be more crucial in certain games than a Lewis Cook, because last season, there's no point of playing Ben Pearson and Jefferson Lerma when we got all the ball. You need a Lewis who can, get you up the pitch and be a bit clever with the ball. But Ben Pearson, off the ball, is one of the best players in our squad. And I was hopeful that we'd use that this season and forget about the past stuff of he's down the pecking order. But it makes perfect sense to me that in the Championship, you're going to play Kilkenny more. But in the Premier League, you might as well let Kilkenny go out on loan like he has, because Pearson's going to be more vital. And it was really brave from Parker, but he obviously saw that in the game and thought, they're probably going to have a bit of the ball. We haven't quite got the players in we want yet, so it's going to be a bit of a back-to-the-wall stuff. This is Pearson all over it, and it worked.
It was a real battle out there. And at this stage, Jeff, I think we need to also talk about Villa, because whilst they had a snapshot with Danny Ings at one point, apart from that, and also a header that didn't overly test Travers, I thought they were actually fairly disappointing for all the build-up, for all the hype. They weren't actually that good.
They had a squad that were brilliant on paper. Leon Bailey is very highly rated. They got some fella called Coutinho I've heard a bit about.
I've heard
Was
of
he
it,
even
mate.
playing?
Well,
You know, it was awful from Villa. I thought creatively they turned up as if they'd completely underestimated us and thought that's all we need to do, just turn up and we'll roll this lot over.
Yeah, I thought they rocked up thinking they could just go through the motions and have too much, especially with our pre-season we've had and all the stuff with no defenders. And yeah, like Jeff said, they might have players on paper, but they didn't graft for Gerrard. They didn't do the basics right. Coutinho was absolutely hopeless. I couldn't believe it was him. And yeah, Bailey's been hyped about. They were really, really poor all over the pitch, I thought. And that surprised me, but I think you've got to look at it from a ball perspective and give us a lot of credit because we nullified them when we stopped them getting any joy. You know, if we don't start well and they score an early goal, they might start playing freely and then they look really classy. I think the fact that we started so much on the front foot almost took them aback a little bit, and we carried that on throughout.
I had the feeling that the way we were going to get points is by sides that we play having poor games, and we need to be right on it. But I didn't feel as though we were amazing, but we just did the basics right, and we were really disciplined. Our structure was really so good throughout.
I think the basics is key, and I think playing. I do think we didn't know what that team was going to be, so you can look at it and you can say, well, Gerrard didn't actually probably didn't set them up for the personnel they were going to be playing against. But he did have the right idea in that he tried to get down our wings a lot and try and get crosses in. But there was no one to pick up those crosses. Like Danny Ings, we had Danny Ings as one of our players. We've had him when he started out, and he was just drifting out. Like Danny Ings, you want through the middle, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird setup.
It was a weird setup from them in terms of trying to get a goal back into the game.
You know what, Jeff? When half time came, sort of 1-0, I'm sort of thinking, whilst I'm having my prosecco, toasting the speeches at this wedding, I'm thinking to myself, at some point in the second half, they're going to come back into this. But you know what? More of the same from us, wasn't it? I thought, just so good on the ball and off the ball.
Yeah, completely. And I do think that we played within ourselves. They brought Buendia on, who made a little bit of a difference. I think he looked a bit more threatening. Certainly the first few minutes, they seemed to have a bit more about them. But when that fizzled out, actually, there was nothing. And that second half, the longer it went on, the more solid we looked. They did not have a single shot on target in the second half, and they're chasing the game. I think that says it all, really.
Right, so as you can see, Tom is already at the tactics board. So let's go and join him to talk about what was going on formation-wise. Because like I say, mate, look, Mark Travers is in goal already. Yeah. But I couldn't really understand it because, as I said, 3-5-2.
That's what it looked like on paper.
3-4-2-1. I couldn't really work it. Now, obviously, you've got your three centre-backs, Lerma, and he was pushing out quite a lot. I mean, but they had to work so hard, like Jay-Z and Adam Smith. But tell me what was happening, because were we playing almost a different formation?
It's quite flexible on and off the ball, isn't it? Yeah, of course. I think it was interesting that he went with Mepham in the middle. I thought he could have gone with Lerma because Lerma would naturally push out. He went with Mepham and then Lerma right side. Wing-backs are as the wing-backs are. They're always going to bomb on. They're always going to be the width for you. But the interesting thing was round here. So I probably assumed going into it, Ben Pearson would be like that. He'd be the one covering. You'd have Billing, Tavernier, and then the two up front of Solanke and Moore. But it definitely wasn't like that. I think if you look at the average positions, Pearson was doing that, but Billing was virtually next to him as a double pivot. And then Solanke was on that left side and Tavernier was slightly to the right, even though he's left-footed. And Moore was virtually lone striker. So it was almost like a little box midfield in there like that. And then Tavernier could do this. Solanke could do this. Billing could do that if he wanted to. And you kind of quite naturally go into it and you end up a bit like that. And then the wing-backs go forward. They can tuck round. There was loads going on. But I think what was interesting, it was Billing was so deep. He was double pivot with Ben Pearson. And like I say, Tavernier and Solanke was virtually in a kind of number 10 mould role, and Keith Moore was up there occupying the centre halves. But it was interesting, but obviously it worked. It worked completely, and I think getting that early goal meant we could just stay in that stay disciplined in that and not have to worry about it too much. Didn't have to change much. But yeah, it was interesting. And then when Lewis Cook come on, he just picked up the same role. But obviously he's just a bit more comfortable on the ball. But Billing being deeper was definitely one I didn't expect. I probably felt like Billing would be a bit more advanced, but he done the job in there. He's got a big physique about him, and he could just sit there with Pearson, and it was comfortable, mate.
No expenses spared. So if you're listening on the audio podcast, you're probably thinking, what the hell were we talking about? Well, we have got our tactics board, and you're welcome to check out the video. It's youtube.com/AFCB podcast. So then, Jeff, second half happens, and it's pretty much more of the same. Thought that Villa's threats were few and far between. I remember a shot from distance that whistled to the right of the post. Other than that, I'm struggling to think of much that they had, mate.
They had a lot of the ball. I think what you were conscious of, it was still pretty tense watching that game, thinking they're going to score. You know, it could be a moment of brilliance from outside the box, but we defended often for our lives, it felt like, and that meant cutting the crosses out and meant blocking crosses. It meant heading the ball clear. Meps was outstanding, I thought, and just won everything, it seemed to me, when he needed to. It was just a commanding performance by that back three, with the wing backs offering some really nice get outs. And there was one moment in the second half which Tiggs, I think we counted about 15 passes where we moved the ball from our half right up to their half. And it's not just we're long ball, we can play as we played last season. We can still pass the ball through the lines, beat their press, and it was great to have that flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, and a special mention as well to Jeff Lerma. I mean, he didn't look out of place at all, did he? As a centre half, I suppose it's helpful you got a centre half who can play with his feet. Although it's not been his natural position throughout his career, he did a really good job. I wouldn't be surprised to see him turn up there again.
No, definitely not. And I wouldn't be worried about it, which is nice. Thinking that he can do that job. I think I said to you, Sam, that if you went out there and that was a new signing, you go, bloody hell, he's a good centre half, the Bournemouth football, and he was brilliant. But and Meps as well. Jeff just made a shout out there. I think I said to you that I saw that he completed the most passes on the pitch and won all his duels. He was superb in the middle of the free. And to be fair to Meps, I've always felt like when he's playing the free, he does look more comfortable. He's got that bit of security, but he's brave, and he was brilliant. And as Jeff said, there's always nerves, but we were in control for the majority when we started the second half, I felt.
And Jeff, take a look at these stats here, because this is quite mad, really. These are our shots that are shown in the sort of ready orange colour versus Villa shots. So whilst they have more, look how many are outside the box. The majority of their shots, even though they score double what we do, they are from distance, whereas most of ours are from within the box. So that's a very good sign, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's testament to the lack of creativity they had, and they didn't really threaten us at all. Even when they got behind us, their crossing was so poor that they couldn't create anything. So what they started doing was just having a lash from 25, 30 yards all the time, and some of it was woeful shooting. And that's with Coutinho and Buendia in their team. So credit to our defence. That's what we forced them to do. Obviously, percentages-wise, they're going to score fewer goals doing that. So, well done, Scott Parker.
He looked good as well.
Yeah, and he did look good. Tell me about this outfit, mate. So it's got 4 horizontal stripes on his left arm, and I was thinking, that's got to be a brand that I've never heard of that all the professionals wear. His jacket was like £1,650, mate.
Something like that, pocket change, mate.
Wow.
Yeah, but no, I like the 4 stripes. Top 4.
Yeah.
Who knows, mate? But yeah, we're there at the moment. But yeah, it was lovely. Parker looked lovely, which was great. But more importantly, he got it bang on the pitch, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And look, squeaky bum time. It wasn't really. I was obviously not being able to see the game, but I was texting you saying, "Do they look threatening?" And you were like, "Well, no," and we're in control. Yeah. Of course, that helped. And Kiefer Moore stepped up, or like uncontested from a loopy Lloyd Kelly cross where he kept it in and nodded it in flet style into the opposite corner. Happy days, mate. But talk me through that goal, mate, because I think he had too much space.
Definitely, from a Villa perspective, they won't be happy with that at all. The threat he possesses in the air, so to make it that easy for him was strange. I think massive shout out to Lloyd Kelly for keeping the ball alive and putting it back in the box. I think it would have been so easy for him at 1-0 with 10 minutes to go when he gets that ball to just calm it down, reset. Let's keep the ball. Let's not, we don't need that second. But he threw it back in there, and I think that's because we know we've got someone in there now who can compete. And yeah, just a loopy ball in that just causes problems. But yeah, Kiefer Moore, I mean, he's unstoppable in a Bournemouth shirt, isn't he? I mean, he's just unbelievable. Just scores every time he plays, it feels. But yeah, really good header. But as you say, really poor from a Villa perspective. They had loads of men round him, but no one contested. So, and that was perfect time. You get to that last 10, it starts getting really nervy. And you get the second goal, and it just calms everything down. So yeah, perfect, mate.
Absolutely delighted for him, Tiggs, to be getting a Premier League goal.
Amazing.
I mean, but he won't get many as easy as that in the Premier League. He'll have to work a lot harder than what he had to work for that goal. He just stood there on the spot.
Yeah, but what I would say is that, you look at the Villa team, who have they got that can contest for a header with Kiefer Moore? In that case, no one contested. It was, it was easy. It didn't have to really do a lot at all, did he? Just had to get it on target. But I think he's a weapon, isn't he, for us going forwards? Whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench.
It felt to me like all game they were being Kiefered.
Yeah.
He was bullying that back five.
Yeah.
All game, controlling the ball, holding it up, bringing other players in. They just got sick of the sight of him and sick of trying to contest with him because they kept losing. So they resorted to fouling him. They resorted to not jumping even because they knew they couldn't compete. It was fantastic.
Nathan Ake's having nightmares, mate, I tell you.
Oh,
He's having nightmares
he is.
about it.
He's the most Steve Fletcher player we've had since Steve Fletcher, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
And, a lot of people have been talking about his performance as a whole, Tiggs, throughout the game. He was just a menace. And it makes you think sort of going forward, we've got more flexibility now than I thought, because I never thought we would see Solanke and Moore starting Premier League games. I thought maybe Moore might come on for Solanke, or maybe if we want a plan B to bring him on with Solanke if we're chasing a goal or whatever. But from the very start, I don't know how much of it was tactical mind games, or he just took a look at the team that he was facing and thought, well, they're probably going to play like this. I think Moore could be a credit, a threat to them. I don't know, but certainly now gives us something and other managers more to think about going forward.
Do you know what? I think that's true now, running through that whole squad. Something I realised about us, probably unlike any other squad that we've had before, is that we've got real unique options. What we don't have is we don't have a lot of like for like.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of a little bit different. There's something Tom said earlier on about it's almost like we've got front foot options and back foot options. You've got your Ben Pearson or you've got your Lewis Cook.
Yeah.
And depending on which way you want to play the game, depends on which one you bring in. It's really exciting, actually, because it will got to give us a little insight when Parker picks his team now, what he's going to be looking to do with this game pretty much straight from the off.
And he'll probably look at the opposition, will he, and use that, use what he thinks is best, because I think it's also a shout he deserves is at 1-0. He takes a midfield player and Ben Pearson brings on Lewis Cook, and a lot of people would think, well, that's a bit strange, but it isn't when it works like it did. That Lewis Cook, Ben Pearson's ran his race, he's worked his socks off, and Lewis Cook can keep the ball. And that's what you want when you're 1-0 at home. You want to keep the ball, you want to kill the momentum, you don't want them to start getting back into the game. So yeah, very clever. Everything was spot on, and as Tig says, we've got some good options now, and yeah, like you say, with Kiefer, we've got more options.
Shout outs that you might want to give, Jeff, not to your friends and family, but for AFC Bournemouth players that you feel we may not have mentioned yet, or people that deserve some real big credit?
I think Lloyd Kelly deserves credit. He was very good, really good on that left side, covering Leon Bailey. I thought all game, Zamora was caught out a couple of times, but Lloyd was imperious, I thought, at the back. Who else? Well, Tavernier, I think, was the star player, really adding that X factor that we were wondering where is that going to come from, and he's definitely got it. Good feet, good vision, and never gives up, never stops running, which is again really useful asset for the team going forwards.
Also, a lot of people have been talking about Chris Mepham as well.
Yeah,
I thought he was really good, and there was some stat about him, Tom, that you were telling me off air earlier. What was it?
Yeah, just mentioning about the fact that he had our best pass completion rate. So used the ball really well, but also won every single one of his ground duels in the game. So was never beaten. And I thought he was excellent. And we kind of alluded to it earlier, but in a back three. I remember when Tyndall first came in, he went with that back three, and Mepham was probably our best defender.
He was.
And when we tried to go against that, he just got... I think it's almost a detriment is that he's so brave. He tries to make the right putt, and sometimes he gets caught. and it makes him look like he's a clumsy defender. But I think on the whole, even if Mepper makes an error, 90% of most games he's pretty good. So yeah, I was really, really, really pleased for him to come through that, because if he makes an error, everyone says he's not up to it. So I was really, really chuffed for him. And this could be big for him, because he'll be thinking, I want to make sure I'm in that Wales squad for the World Cup. So, yeah, deserves a shout out. And I'll just give a quick one to Adam Smith, who's just been announced that he's extended his contract with the football club, which is massive. Most Premier League appearances that we've got in the squad for us. And I thought he was exceptional. He got forward when he needed to, but also showed that experience. And you think, we've brought in Ryan Fredericks, who I know is injured. We've got Jack Stacey breathing down his neck. We tried to bring in Ethan Laird last season, but when Adam Smith, whether it's Scott Parker, Jonathan Woodgate, Jason Tinder, Eddie Howe, when he's fit, he plays. And I think he gets overlooked sometimes for how consistent he is. So shout out to Smudge as well.
Where does this leave? Marcus Senesi coming in from
Marcus
Feyenoord.
Senesi.
Marcus, like the chants are ready. Whether people are willing to sing Britney Spears or your version, I don't know. I thought mine was quite good, but some people say not. What happens when he comes in, Tiggs? Who gets dropped? Well, or is it, is a case that Jefferson Lerma moves forward, and then Chris Mepham shifts to the right hand side, and then he sits in the middle, or what? Do you know what is?
Do you know what the thing is? I'd like to have a confident stab at this, but I don't think I really can. And the reason I can't is that I wasn't expecting the team that we saw last week. So I'm really finding it hard to understand exactly what's in Parker's head. What I do know is that he did play Jefferson Lerma all pre-season as a centre half, pretty much majority of games.
Yep.
So if he moves Lerma forward, then Ben Pearson probably don't get a shout in for a while. That worked really well. So I think it's horses for courses. I think he's going to change it. I don't think Senesi will come straight in. I just don't think that's mind you, Tavernier didn't he? So what can I
think Tiggs just alluded to it a minute ago, but I think it's going to be very game dependent.
Yeah.
We're not going to set up the same way away at Man City as we are at home to Wolves. We're just not, and I think that game was perfect for that system and them players with what we got at the moment. But it'll change it on game. There'll be some games where Lerma plays at the back. There'll be some where he plays in the middle on his own deep. There'll be some where he's in a double pivot with Pearson. I think it'll mix it up quite a lot. I think we've got a lot of flexibility in there. I think you'll see Tavernier as an attacking midfielder, as a defensive midfielder, as a wing back. I just think he's getting players in that are versatile and can fill in a lot of gaps. And I think we'll probably go over 3 for the majority, but it wouldn't shock me if some home games we go to a 4 again. I think he's looking, as we've kind of mentioned all through this video, I think he's looking at, we've got so much flexibility in game and before games to surprise people. I don't think there's going to be a set 11 through the season, really. I'll be very surprised.
This is a game where if under Eddie Howe, we would have gone up there and we would have probably gone. We usually play 4. We played like 3 at the back, wouldn't we? We put on like your Mings or your Simpson or somebody, wouldn't you, in that middle there? I'd be really interested. I don't know what Parker does. Does he change the shape? Does he change the personnel? What do you think, Jeff? What do you think is viable?
I think it's all about flexibility with the tactical genius we have in charge, and really against Man City, I think we're gonna play as many defenders as we possibly can in defensive midfielders. We're going to try and get a 0-0 and maybe hit them on the break with 1. So probably 1 up front, more Solanke. I don't know what he's going to do with Senesi. Probably I'd err on the moving Mepham to the right side and bringing Jeff into the midfield. I think that's probably the ideal scenario, but who knows? Super Scotty Parker, he knows what to do. Not me.
So, we've also got the flexibility of playing different formations, but also having players that can do more than one role. So, there are lots of ways that we can catch teams maybe a bit unaware.
Yeah, and I think this sort of game, away from home particularly, I think you're more likely to see, as Jeff kind of said there, one of the strikers potentially miss out and Billing play as the one off him, and everyone else is set back, and it's Billing the one that's got to try and support the striker and get beyond. And because we've just seen Billing virtually in a double pivot defensively, but we know that he can do that. And I think away from home you're going to see Billing a lot more advanced. But we've got loads of flexibility, and players will be asked to do different things. We're forgetting we've got a few wide men on the bench as well that haven't been used, and people like Dembele and Antony are really good options on the counter attack. So you can change that when you need to. So I think it's going to be really interesting what we do, but I think we can change it depending on the game, depending on the opposition. So I think that's what we'll do. And it is a free hit, isn't it? The next 2 away games are free hits, really. And we can kind of maybe look at it, and we can go to City. If we go and get pumped and we try something, we go, okay, maybe don't do that against Liverpool, and we can look at it. But cut the free hits, mate. And I think them home games are where we're going to have to look to impose ourselves on the opposition a bit more. And Kiefer just gives us a great option to chuck in the box when you need to.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. And some of these top sides maybe don't like that sort of directness, so that could work as well. So I'm excited now. It's amazing how quickly it changes.
Are we becoming the new Burnley? Anti-football, having not much of the ball, pumping it up forward. We aren't, are we?
No, we aren't. It just gives us that flexibility with Kiefer more, but it's good to have that. And listen, when we went up before, we did try that with a Murray, less so, but we did. There's a different option. You've got to have that. So we even done it at the Championship with Kevin Jones. You've got to have that different option. We're not going to we didn't just start lumping balls to the box, but it's nice to have a bit of physicality up there as well. But yeah, mate. Yeah, would I take a draw at the Etihad? Maybe.
Maybe. Jeff, what's the scoreline when you roll into work on a Monday morning? What's the kind of scoreline that is the difference between respectable and embarrassing? Is it 3-0, 4-0, or is it 4-0, 5-0, or what?
Well, look what they did to Watford last season. I want to avoid any passing resemblance to a certain team from North London. And I think if we can go, maybe keep it down under 4, that would be great. It all depends how long we can keep them out for. The problem with City is if they score early, we're in trouble. But if we can defend like we did on Saturday, and I'm certainly moving more from being fearful to being actually optimistic and quite excited. So I'm looking forward to the contest. I think it will be a different game for them than they probably expect. And if they underestimate what we can do, well, we might have a chance. I'll take the 3 points.
I think we need to calm down a little bit as well, in the sense that we all know how good City are, but I watched them against West Ham. They're happy to win 2-0. They're not. They got 2-0. They took Cardiff off, and they just keep the ball. It's so horrible, but they don't just keep going to try and get 10. They're quite Guardiola's quite comfortable with just keeping the ball and just managing the game, and they'll just keep the ball and we won't better. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be 6-7. I think like Jeff said, maybe the earlier the goal they get will be a concern, but. Let's see what happens, mate. Let's put it up them and 1-0 Marcus Senesi.
1-0 Marcus Senesi. That would be wonderful. Jeff Hayward, it's been a pleasure to have you back. It seems like ages since you've been on the pod, but we'll be getting these out regularly at the start of every week. So yourself, Neil, we'll all be in the mix, and we'll be doing more of these, won't we?
Looking forward to it. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and appreciate the technology, the professionalism of the production team. Outstanding.
We try. Jeff Hayward, thanks for coming along. See you next week.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers, mate.
And Tiggs, it has been an absolute pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
As always, Tom, it's been great. And we've got a week now to worry about Man City, yeah?
No worry, mate. No worry. They're worried about us. They took Haaland off. Just saying. They were worried, mate. They were worried. Write us off at your peril.
A slightly shorter second look, but that's what we're going to do. Content every single day. So Monday evening or maybe Tuesday, depending on we and other teams when we play. It's a second look. And remember, if you want to listen to this on your headphones, just download the audio pod. Until the next one, up the cherries.